Okay, thank you. I'm Penny Dye, Vice Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the town. And our chair, Brian Sullivan, cannot be here today. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do I do a roll call on this?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a roll call to determine who's present from the Affordable Housing Trust. Brooke Moore here and Forrest Bell.
Here.
Thank you. Abby De Molina.
Here.
Mary Mack.
Here.
And I'm here as vice chair. Okay, call the meeting to order. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, and there's an agenda amendment?
Yes.
You mean as amended?
Oh, so,
Yeah.
sorry, we'd like to amend the executive session to remove 8 Skyline
Yep.
Drive.
Okay, so move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, we had some seconds. Can we have one person second that as amended? Thank you, Mary. By roll call vote, those in favor, let's see, Forrest,
Aye.
Abby,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
can you hear us? Thank you, and Brooke,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on the agenda.
Just to note, Shanta Boyce Murphy has joined the meeting at 12:34.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I see no public comments. I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes of October 21st. Any comments, additions, corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
You guys tied. We'll give it to Abby. Okay, by roll call, Forrest Bell
Aye.
and Abby,
Aye.
Mary.
I'm gonna abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, and Shanta, are you here?
I'm here. Aye.
Thank you. And Brooke?
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye as well. Okay, next up is item 5, announcements. And do you want to take this, or Dylan, you go ahead and take this, please.
So the first is that the trust is considering launching a rental preservation program. The program would provide existing landlords a multi-year incentive to continue renting year-round to local tenants. Placemate is conducting a survey with landlords on Nantucket to understand if they'd be interested in participating and using the survey results and the input to help design the program. The survey itself should take participants less than 5 minutes to complete, and there is a link in the packet and the agenda available online for folks to access. And then second,
Hold on a second, excuse me. What's the deadline for responding?
the deadline, great, good question, thank you. The deadline is Thursday, the 20th, so 2 days from now. It's been open for a couple of weeks and we have advertised it in a few places, including the select board announcements, wrote some letters to the editors, so they've gotten some good responses so far.
Thank you.
And next, the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission is hosting the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, or the EOHLC, for a virtual ADU, which is accessory dwelling unit roadshow on Thursday, November 20th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. It's meant to be an educational session specific to Nantucket with a question and answer period regarding Section 8 of Chapter 50 of the Acts of 2024, which allows ADUs under 900 square feet to be built by right in single family zoning districts. And there, for people who are interested, there is a link for the Zoom and the pack in the agenda. And there's also a link for more information about ADUs for the state's website.
Thank you. And just to remind people, Nantucket has a different challenge in that we already allowed tertiary dwelling units prior to the Seasonal Communities Act going into effect. And Megan Trudell from the Planning Department is our representative to the Seasonal Communities Task Force. Thank goodness. Okay, next up, Closing Cost Assistance Program, 63 Cato Lane. Dylan?
Yes, so we received a updated application from Elvis Butler for 63 Cato Lane. He originally purchased, it's a covenant lot, which he originally purchased in 2022 with assistance with closing cost assistance from the trust, and he used about a little over $5,000 of it. And then now that he is building, he has returned to the trust to request the remainder of those funds to help with the construction loan, which will convert to a permanent loan. So I believe that the materials for that are in the packet. And happy to answer any questions. We believe it should be a modification to the mortgage, and the note with an updated subordination would be the way to do it. And I do have language for a motion for when.
Great,
if
that
and when
makes
people are ready.
sense. Do members have any questions about this? Comments?
No.
No.
We've done this before.
Yes, we have done this before. Why don't you read the motion and then we'll attribute it to somebody?
Sure. So the language, it would be, we hereby authorize the modification of the mortgage and promissory note executed by Elvis E. Butler on July 13th, 2022 for the property formerly known as 63 Cato Lane and now known as 63A Cato Lane by increasing the loan amount from $5,350 to $15,000 and updating the address of said property to reflect its current address of 63R Cato Lane, and to subordinate the trust's rights in said mortgage to a mortgage to be granted by Elvis E. Butler to the Cape Cod 5 Cents Savings Bank on the property, and to authorize the chair to sign and execute any documents necessary to modify the mortgage and promissory note and subordinate the mortgage to said mortgage to be granted by Elvis E. Butler to the Cape Cod 5 Cents Savings Bank.
Does somebody want to own and claim that motion?
I'll make
I
that
will-
motion.
Okay, thank you, Shanta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brooke. Any discussion on this? No. Okay, by roll call vote, all those in favor, Forrest?
Aye.
Thank you, Abby?
Aye.
Thank you, Mary?
Aye.
And thank you, and Shanta?
Aye.
And Brooke?
Aye.
And Penny votes aye.
If
Thank
I,
you.
if I may, Madam Chair, I just want to thank Vicky and Eric for their quick work on getting those
Yeah.
materials over to us.
Great. Next up, Habitat for Humanity, Nantucket request for grant for marketing campaign. Stephen, are you here to speak?
Sorry, Forrest has the scan, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Forrest?
I just wanted to mention that I'm going to recuse myself from this vote just because I'm a Habitat recipient.
Thank you. We still have a quorum, so that's fine. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. And I see also that Jennifer is on and looks like Jerry's on also. So if we have additional questions, but this is a request for financial support for our advertising campaign, which we have put together at the direction of Christy and with support from her office. We are looking for good real estate deals. If you know anybody out there who's looking to donate or sell at a bargain price to Habitat to support our mission, to put year-round families in homes at really exceptional prices. We have a good track record, and we're looking for land for our next projects as we near the end of our 6-dwelling project on Waite Drive. Thank you for putting up the art. We plan to have this advertising campaign appear in the Enquirer and Mirror, and also digital outlets, Current, and I'm not sure if there's another digital outlet besides the Current.
Thank you. Do any of those publications, specifically the Enquirer Mirror, have a nonprofit rate? Does anybody know?
They do have a nonprofit rate, and the rate that we were quoted is the nonprofit rate.
Okay, thank you. And then, Stephen, you just briefly touched on tax benefits for an owner, a seller.
Right.
Would
Yep.
that be the market sale process?
Yes. So we do make some reference to that, and there's slight variation in the messaging that'll go out over a series of weeks. But in all of the advertisements, we're asking for people who have developable land or buildable land, who are interested in donating or selling at a discount.
Okay. Thank you. And does the board have any questions for Habitat folks? I have a question just administratively, I guess, for Christy, which is, have we funded something like this before? And if so, what bucket is that coming out of?
So just to kind of touch base on it, this request is for about a $7,500 request of a marketing campaign. This isn't something that the trust has funded in the past. If we were going to fund it, it would come out of our cash override that we have available.
Okay. Is there anything in our mandate that prohibits us from funding this?
That would be a Vicky question, or Eric. If there's anything that prevents us from funding a marketing campaign.
So, Madam Chair, I don't necessarily think that there's, well, I'm not sure whether we want to contribute funding for one particular developer on the island over other developers. I don't know if that would be a consideration that we'd want to, I think that we'd want to think about before we actually go ahead and grant the funds. I'm sure there are other developers, nonprofits that may be looking now to also get that support. And I'm just not sure whether the trust is so inclined to do that at this point.
Thank you, Vicky. Whose hand is up? Did you say, Dylan?
Jerry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see, because you're raising your regular hand. Okay. Sure. Jerry.
Thank you. Yes, this came up through a conversation with Brian, Christy, with Stephen and I, and it was just thought that we've never done it before. And the thought that the possibility that the land would come to us cheaper than it would come to the trust or to the town. That people would, maybe find a soft spot and they think that there was a better price for them, and not a better price for us, better price eventually for the trust to help us purchase this. But to get a view of different properties and just see what was out there, it could probably come at a lower rate than the town would see.
I think that is sound thinking. But I also want to point out that Habitat is not only serving the 80% and below, but that in the past few years, everything they've been doing counts towards the SHI list, which might be different than a situation with another developer in the future. I just want to point that out. What's the pleasure of the board? More questions? Yes, Brooke. Oh, Brooke's mouth is full. Sorry. I haven't watched too.
I suggest we look at this as a pilot program
No, that's a great idea.
and say we're going to try it and see if it yields any results, and then use that outcome as a way to gauge whether it's a good way to invest trust funds to other, with other organizations on island.
I
So
think that's smart. Are you making a motion?
so I'd love to hear from the other
Yes,
members of
other
the trust before I'm ready to make a motion, to see
Okay.
if anyone has any thoughts on that suggestion.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that or questions about it? I see no hands. Abby, yes, thank you.
I just wanted to kind of second, I think that's a great idea, Brooke, and I think the beauty of us doing a pilot is at least we can get a little bit of data, and then that's always helpful to kind of point back to because we have something concrete. So I would be supportive of that idea.
Thank you, Abby. Brooke?
So, anybody else?
Yes. Go ahead.
All right, so I would make the motion that we approve this funding as a pilot program as a new partnership for marketing for the acquisition of land. And I would ask that Habitat do their best to track metrics particularly on the digital advertising, so we have some feedback as we're couching this as a pilot program. So coming back with some data on how it went would be
part of this funding.
And I would just, if you would entertain a friendly suggestion, the ads that you have here, the samples, all refer only to land. It's certainly possible somebody has something with a modest structure on it that also might work. So don't limit yourselves to just land, right? There could be something improved that might serve the purposes of habitat.
I have one additional question for
Yeah.
the board. Do you want there to be anything on the ads around funded by the Affordable Housing Trust or Affordable Housing Trust logo, or do you just want it to be a grant?
I think it should just, I mean, my feeling is, I think Jerry's comments were on target, and unless somebody feels otherwise, I think it should just be habitat. Okay, is there a second to Brooke's motion?
Second.
Thank you very much. We're gonna do a roll call vote. All those in favor, Forrest?
No.
I'm recusing myself.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, you are recusing. Thank you. Steve, I'm laughing because if I'd had lunch, I wouldn't have made that mistake. Steve, wait a minute. Okay, so Chantal.
Aye.
Thank you, Abby. Thank
Aye.
you. Okay, thank you. Mary
Aye.
and Brooke,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Okay, next up is a
Thank you.
review. Of the 2026 Affordable Housing Trust Fund meeting dates and hybrid meeting schedule. This is also in our packet. And you check to make sure that this doesn't conflict with any holidays. So I don't see any issues at all with the schedule. Did anybody else? We're supposed to be meeting the second and fourth Tuesday.
First and third.
Here we go. There, it's up on the screen. Thank you.
So it's the first and third Tuesday of each month,
First and third, except for September.
except for September, which you moved for Labor Day. And as you all know, oftentimes we will adjust.
Yeah.
Following open meeting law, but we'll adjust as necessary. But this is the proposed schedule for 2026.
Thank you. Do we need a vote on this?
Yes, and for it to be hybrid,
For it to be what?
hybrid, if you'd like us.
Oh,
to
yes.
reserve the
Yeah. How do people feel? Let's have a quick discussion about that. Hybrid meetings. Are people, I mean, so far, most people are still coming in remotely, which is understandable for a variety of reasons.
No, for.
I don't think we should go back to strictly remote, is my feeling. I think there's value in those who choose to be present, being present. If anybody feels differently, speak up.
I
Forrest.
agree, Penny.
Oh,
I
okay.
think having both options, if you can be in person, it's great. And I think, but being able to do it online as well. But I agree, I don't think it should be all online, especially because a lot of people like staff, you guys are in the same place. It would be a
Right.
little silly for you to all like Zoom in from the same place.
Great. Thank you, Abby. Forrest.
And I agree with you, Penny, or Madam Chair as well. I think there should be an option for being remote, because there may be some days that I can be in person, but I have such a tight schedule that I have 2 minutes between when I'm busy and when I have to hop on to the meeting. So it's nice to have that option available to those of us who can't rush down there midday on a Tuesday. But I do agree that it should remain hybrid though.
Thank you. Any other input? Yes, Mary.
Yeah, I agree too, that it should be a combination. I would be there, but I have a terrible cough, so that's why I'm
Thank you.
there, and nobody would want me there.
In spirit, we would, but not practically, probably. Thank you. Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to accept the proposed meeting schedule and continue in the hybrid format?
Motion to
Mary-
accept the 2026 meeting proposal.
Thank
Second,
you, Mary. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, Abby. By roll call, Forrest
Aye.
and Mary,
Aye.
Abby,
aye.
Chantal.
Aye.
Thank you, and Brooke.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next up, housing projects and programs. Who wants to take this? Dylan?
So Judy and I believe Tony from Barrett Planning are here to
Okay.
present on the housing production plan update.
Great.
So we can, if it's okay with you, turn it over to them.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you, Judy, once again.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you all. So my colleague Tony's here with me. We put together just a few slides to kind of walk you through what the plan is for this update of the housing production plan. So if you don't mind, I'd just as soon screen share and then we can talk about the project going forward. Is that okay with everybody?
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
And
Yeah.
if I'm lucky, I can actually get these slides.
We were doing this ago.
1 second, folks.
Just while you're getting that ready, is this is every 5 years that this has to happen?
It is every 5 years. And your current plan will expire late next summer, early fall, as I recall. I think it's September. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that's what it is. Okay.
Well, while you're getting set up, Mary, is your hand still up from before, or do you have another question?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's up from before.
No worries. No. Thank you.
I know I'm having trouble closing this down, but I am. Okay, here we go. Sorry, folks. Okay. I think many of you are kind of familiar with the overall structure of the housing production plan. Because I've worked with so many of you for over the years, but for those who are not familiar with it, I actually just would like to go through a little bit about the requirements and the schedule and so forth. And there'll be a point in this presentation when I'm actually going to turn to Tony to talk about how we see the community engagement process going forward on this. So Nantucket has a lot of housing needs, and it's kind of hard to put them all in one box, but I think it's just important to understand what a housing production plan is and how you can use it to address a variety of needs, but there are certain needs that you must address if it's going to be a housing production plan approvable by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the big picture of a housing production plan is kind of understanding who has unmet housing needs in your town. And that can be affordability, but other needs as well. Trying to understand the types of homes that are necessary and what stands in the way of addressing the needs, both the needs of people and the needs for the particular types of housing that would serve those needs. A housing production plan has to have goals. There are sort of two types. One is qualitative, which is really around kind of what you want to see happen as a result of the housing development taking place in your community. And one of them is quantitative. As you may remember from the previous plans, there are certain numerical targets that have to be met under the state's guidelines. And we'll talk about those more in a bit. The plan is a 5-year plan. Kind of like many other plans that municipalities prepare, there's a 5-year timeline, so it has to be updated, and here we are. And then I think the overall way to think about this plan is trying to get the best alignment possible between your town's housing development policies and the intent of the Chapter 40B housing law. There are 3 key pieces to this. There's the housing needs assessment, the affordable housing goals, and the implementation strategies. The needs assessment is both the needs of people in your community who have unmet needs for affordable housing or housing suitability, housing security. It also includes a barriers assessment. So the barriers assessment is kind of an integral part of a housing production plan. And that's essentially where you're looking at what are the things that stand in the way of meeting these needs? To what extent is the market a problem? To what extent is local regulation a problem? To what extent is kind of community opposition a problem? And those kind of barriers all sort of get packaged up to look at, here's why we're kind of in the situation that we're in. And that logically feeds to the goals, which are like, well, how do we want to be in the future? And perhaps not be so burdened by the types of barriers that we're dealing with today. And then, of course, the heart of the plan is the action strategies or the implementation plan. And that's where you're essentially saying, well, here are our goals for this plan. Here are the things that we're going to do to address them. I do want to just point out, because we're also working on the master plan, that I think in this HPP, perhaps more than ones in the past, I think we really need to drill down on some of the town's development regulations to see where it might be easier to create either affordable housing or year-round housing without maybe so many hurdles. But that's a conversation we can get to down the road. The barriers, again, it's market, it's construction challenges. In all the towns we work in right now, we're hearing over and over again from developers the challenges that they're facing with construction costs, availability of materials. It's a tough situation even under the best regulatory climate, but we need to be able to sort of document what those things are. I think another type of barrier we probably going to want to look at a little bit more than perhaps we did in the past is how is the town's capacity holding up to monitor and protect affordable housing restrictions? We see we're dealing with this in several regions of the Commonwealth right now, where communities create affordable units and think, gosh, we're done, you know, we're at 10% or whatever. But the system isn't in place to actually monitor and make sure those units remain affordable. So that's something I think we're going to want to understand how that's being handled now. So perhaps we can make some suggestions on how to strengthen your system of monitoring in the future if it needs it. Another barrier I think we really need to get a handle on is the overoccupied housing situation, because it is a contributing factor to the housing cost situation. Is certainly not the cause of it, but it's part of it. As I said, those goals are going to be both numeric and qualitative. You know, you can think about a variety of things. This is, I think, really where a town like Nantucket gets the liberty to say, yes, we have needs for lower moderate income housing. Those are not addressed. They are not solved. You could be well over 10% and you are still going to have issues in Nantucket around very low income folks. In addition, Nantucket has issues around around workforce, around the whole sort of continuum of what it takes to have people housed comfortably and securely in a place that they call their community. So there's an opportunity in the goals section to really get a handle on all of that. Sometimes communities in their goal section of the plan will focus in on certain locations where they think it's appropriate to, you know, to provide more housing or different types of housing. You know, we're seeing a lot now conversations around this concept of missing middle and how do you adapt that to the community that you're working in. Regulatory reform, and of course funding, which I realize is an ongoing issue in Nantucket. If the HPP is going to be approved, there are at least 5 local actions you have to have. And I want to just underscore these because sometimes people sort of forget that there's ultimately a state approval at the end of all this, in addition to the local approval. And while you could have all kinds of things in that action plan, there are 5 things that you absolutely must have. One is, where is the town willing to change its zoning to enable affordable housing development? Another is, how are you willing to change your zoning to allow a wider variety of homes, including but not limited to lower moderate income homes? How can you make the best possible use of Chapter 40B? How do you stand in terms of potentially having municipal property available that could be used for affordable housing? And we've actually worked in a couple of places that simply did not have municipal land available that could be used for housing. And so the way the communities addressed that criterion was to think about, well, these are places where we actually would acquire land or we would acquire property in order to then address local housing needs. And thinking about ways to work together as a region. You guys are already doing that so successfully, I think, with the Cape and Islands, but I think it's just important to point out, especially in housing production plans in your region, the sort of importance of seasonal communities and how that is connecting people to address needs in your type of market area. You can have all kinds of other actions in your plan as long as you address these 5. We sometimes see, and I think would be certainly appropriate in Nantucket for you guys to talk about your year-round housing restriction program, partnerships with land conservation or preservation organizations or faith-based groups, thinking about strategies for workforce housing, employer-assisted housing. thinking about housing for people with disabilities, organizing people who are supportive of housing to actually be available to you at public hearings, at town meeting, to show a stronger support for the housing needs that exist in the town. So I'm not saying you have to have all these things. I'm saying these are examples of things that you could cover. So I know Tony has sent the staff at least a draft of the engagement plan to review. But I think we want to just stop a little bit and look at how we're thinking about engagement for this plan. And Tony, I'm going to sort of toss this to you at this point, although I probably will jump in when I feel like it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Tony?
Yeah, thank you, Judy. Hi everyone. My name is Tony. It's a pleasure to be here. So yes, we shared a draft outline of our engagement process with the town. We just want to, iron out a few details before we share it with the rest of you. But essentially it's, we want to start with well, first and foremost, the document that we want to share with everyone. It outlines our project schedule and engagement efforts, and there'll be a slide with a table and a chart, sort of visualizing how it all looks. But essentially we want to start with stakeholder interviews. So with that, we want to get a better understanding of Nantucket's housing needs, issues, and challenges through interviews with groups, potentially individuals, including advocates, local officials, and especially people from underrepresented populations. And we may incorporate a mix of in-person and virtual formats, just to broaden our outreach, and are thinking of holding them between now and until January, and we'll ask for help to reach out or get names and contact information to talk to people that you feel or we feel would best inform us and help us develop some major components of the HPP. And so we'll attend periodic meetings for the Housing Trust. We'll present updates throughout the way. We'll create informational and outreach materials for the town to post either on the website or social media or however, or in ways that they see fit. We'll post or published a community survey sometime in the winter of the next year, January, February, around then, to broaden our outreach even further, to reach out to people who have who often don't attend organized events, or just have difficulty coming to them. Surveys they often receive the most participation. They're relatively quick to take, and can be distributed widely. The story map is something that we like to do to communicate project information, updates, and content in a more digestible and a more accessible way. It's people can just go to or click on a link. It'll be a very interactive, visually engaging webpage that will that they can walk through different parts of the plan, and engage with it that way, and not have to learn about the housing production plan, and not have to read a very long document to understand it, but just have like very quick takes, or things that they can extract very quickly. Pop-up engagements. So if the town has throughout the year events, like I'm not sure what's coming up next in Nantucket very soon, but any winter festivals, or anything like that. If the town has a table or booth that they would like to set up, we can create, materials surrounding the plan, get solicit, feedback that way. We can make quick surveys that we can ask people to take, have QR codes or links to, that we can share with the public, to where they can learn more about the project, and so forth. And then 2 community meetings, the first, being sometime around late January. So that the first meeting, we're hoping that we're able to, broaden the conversation about housing needs. At the same time, provide opportunities for, participants to envision, the future of housing on the island, in an interactive activity, or, and however, we'll, design that workshop. But and then the second workshop, I think we want to design that to be more focused on strategies. So after which, at that point, we'll be thinking about or developing the draft, housing strategies and the subsequent housing or implementation plan. And, we'll want to speak with, people who, have, the best expertise or knowledge about the town, and, that they're able to come up with the best ways to, implement them, and so forth. So, next slide, please, Judy.
Well, these are questions, you don't have to answer these today, but they are kinds of questions I think we're going to want you to be thinking about to guide us or help us give you the best plan we can. Because these are questions we typically ask on any HPP. First of all, like, who's the most affected? And the answer to that question in Nantucket is really broad. I realize that, but it's just important to really focus on what this plan is about, which is about helping people. This plan is about helping people. To what extent are the issues that you have differentially affecting people on the basis of race or ethnicity, religious groups, and so forth? Are there neighborhood disparities that exist as well? Are there organizations that local residents trust, and can those organizations help us reach people directly? Oftentimes what happens on these plans, it's a little bit frustrating for consultants, is that it's not hard to connect with the organizations that support lower moderate income folks or support minorities and immigrants and so forth. But it's actually a much better plan if we can speak with people directly instead of through their organizations alone. So I think this sort of direct connection is something we're going to want to work on with you folks. And then, other stakeholders. I mean, you have nonprofits in your town who obviously have an interest in this plan, for-profit developers who want to do good housing and find it difficult to get it approved or get it through town meeting. And so we want to talk to these folks to make sure we really have a good sense of both the barriers and what are the things that are standing in the way. And those interviews are going to be critical for that. I just want to tell you, I've been doing a lot. I've done these plans a lot over the ever since this regulation originally went into effect in 2001. And I just need to tell you that data never tell the whole story. So we'll mine data because that's what you do on these plans, but you learn from people who are in a situation where their housing needs are not being met. And they're not being met for any number of reasons. And if we don't have those stories, we don't have a good plan. Tony alluded to the schedule. I mean, this is just sort of laying out kind of where we are. I think this engagement, the reason there's X's all the way through is that that's sort of the way this plan is. I think we're actually currently right now working with Libby, town manager, on some meetings that we're planning to do for the master plan in December. And we're hoping to be able to connect those dates with an activity potentially in Nantucket for the housing plan, optimally with students, if we can do that. I think that one of the things we've learned working on the master plan is that your children are very aware of the housing crisis on Nantucket. And I think we need to make sure that they are consulted and that their voices are heard. Because we certainly heard them in a meeting at the high school last week. So we're trying to think about ways to sort of connect some of the in-person stuff we want to do for the housing plan with also being there for the master plan. But this is roughly what the schedule looks like. Happy to address any questions or comments about it when I stop talking and when Tony stops talking in a minute. And here we are, we're at the question slide. So if you don't
All
need
right.
these up, I can take them down or I can leave them up.
Thank you, Judy and Tony. Brooke, why don't you go, and then I've got some comments.
Yeah, Judy, I would just, there are civics classes taught at grade 8 and grade 11. And we have actually had some interesting engagement with the 8th graders over the years. And those teachers are also very aware of the housing issue. They do a project every year, and for a number of years they were doing housing related stuff. So and I used to go in and talk to them, and it was very interesting hearing the real life stories of these kids, either their own families or their friends. And I would say faith-based organizations, tough nut to crack on Nantucket, but St. Mary's, the Catholic Church in particular, has a Spanish-speaking mass that if you were able to develop a relationship, and we can maybe work on getting you a connection there.
Great.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Brooke. Judy, I have a suggestion and a comment, I guess, or a question and a comment. My suggestion is, in addition to the planning board chair and the select board chair, that the zoning board of appeals chair is also included in this.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I was so happy to see under other action plan strategies, the partnerships with land conservation, historic preservation, and faith-based groups. Some of us recently had an opportunity to spend a full day on Martha's Vineyard to see how they're tackling some of the same challenges by collaborating from the outset with their land bank. Their land bank, of course, ours was founded in '83, theirs was '86, but they have made enormous progress by that affiliation and collaboration. So, and I feel that we're just at the beginning of that here. And for a variety of reasons, I think that's going to be a huge sort of portal to what happens next here. And those are my comments. Other board members' comments? I can't see everybody because of the screen, maybe.
Judy, if you want to stop sharing.
Yeah, maybe that'd be good.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Any other board members have questions, comments, suggestions? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up. So thank you for your time. And we look forward to getting this done before it has to be done.
Yes.
So,
Well, unfortunately, you got your RFP out on time. I mean, there is time to get this done. So we appreciate not having it crammed. Sometimes it ends up being crammed at pretty much the last minute, but that's not what happened here.
yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Darren.
Staff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have one
Yes,
question
yes,
for
Christie.
Judy. Will you review our 2021 plan and kind of like check off like this was done, or what needs to be moved over into the
That's a great
2027?
question.
Yeah, so we try to go through the recommendations of the previous plan and say, first of all, what was done? And then what was not done and why? Like, was it not possible? Was it a bad idea? Is it ongoing? Is it something you're working on now, but it's not done yet? And even if it wasn't done, is it still relevant? So
Great.
yes, we will do that.
And was it not done because it wasn't funded?
Right, exactly.
For instance. Okay, that's a great question, Christie.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the public? Okay, I see no hands. All right.
If I may, Madam
Yes.
Chair, I'll just add that I'm planning to respond to Tony and Judy's emails to this afternoon about the interview, so we'll get that going.
That's totally fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the good landlord tax
Have to
exemption.
stay on for this, Penny, or I mean, we will if you need us to or not. It's up to you.
No. No, you can get on with your day.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Okay.
So,
Dylan?
yes,
Yeah.
so, this is something I believe that, well, I know that the housing department staff have looked at, and I believe the trust has looked at in the past, and so we're. Now that we're fully staffed out, or more staffed out, we're ready to bring this up again. So the good landlord tax exemption is a property tax exemption program, that was enacted in 2023. And it basically is very similar to the year-round residential property tax exemption, except it provides a property tax exemption to people who rent year-round at affordable rates. So I wrote and shared a memo to the trust that's in the packet that lays out the qualifications. So for example, the property owner has to rent at an affordable rate as determined by the city or town based on federally set AMI levels. It has to be rented to a year-round resident, and the tenant has to be qualified. The state level, so the municipality can set it lower, but the state has said that income cannot exceed 200% area median income. And so, we've been in discussion with Libby in the assessor's office, and sorry,
no, I'm just gonna interrupt because so often we throw out these percentages. 200% is over $300,000 a year. I just wanna put.
For a family of four.
Yeah, for a family of four.
fair.
Thank you.
Absolutely, good point. And so we're continuing to pursue it. There are a number of steps the municipality has to take, which are things that we're asking the trust to begin thinking about to guide our work. So that is the maximum amount of the exception, or of the exemption rather, with just a reminder that it can't exceed the property tax rate, and there is a minimum of property tax that has to be paid. The annual occupant household income limit, the affordable housing rate of the rent, the domiciliary requirements of the owner, if any, and any restrictions or regulations consistent with the intent of the law. So anything beyond what is laid out. We do have a number, we've been doing some research both broadly and with towns on the Cape who have already implemented this. So we can talk a little bit about what our recommendations would be. But maybe I'll just stop there if there are any questions from the
I
board.
have a question. Well, first of all, I had asked Dylan previously, who named this? Because it's like good landlord, like it's supposed to be bad landlord. And we didn't have any input into how it was named. It was the state that named this, so we're stuck with that. But my question is, there are so many people in this community already doing this, many to family members or extended family members. Would they qualify for this?
So there's nothing that I have seen that said family members can't qualify.
Excellent.
We are in, where this in some ways matches and will pair nicely with if we launch the rental preservation program like Rooted Renters, where that might have requirements, but my understanding is that so long as they meet the requirements otherwise laid out, family members are not.
I just think it's high time to recognize people who are already good landlords doing the right thing. Forrest has his hand up. Go ahead. You unmute.
Through
There you go.
through you, Madam Chair. I have a quick clarification question. So Dylan, you were saying that the exemption would be situational, so it would vary depending upon the number of factors, or would it be a flat rate kind of exemption?
Great question. So our recommendation would be that for people who are renting units that are 500 square feet or smaller, the exemption would be $1,000, and anything above that 500 square feet would be $1,500. So there would be two options, but those are the factors.
So,
Thank
through
you.
you, Chair, if I could just also expand on that. So the town of Provincetown originally released this through a home rule petition. Senator Sear kind of heard about this, thought it was a great idea for towns to be able to opt in, and they passed it through as a state option to opt in. So we have to vote this in through town meeting. We had tried to bring this forward last year. I was kind of going on maternity leave. We weren't fully staffed. We didn't get it ready in time for the 2025 annual town meeting. And there's a few things that the town needed to figure out. So we had it kind of left over on the list for the next town meeting. Since then, the town of Harwich has implemented it. So Provincetown does the abatement based on a square footage, like you actually have like a ratio. And that seems very complicated to forecast out as to what this would cost. And so Harwich did like a flat $1,500. So we as the Affordable Housing Trust can make the recommendation to the select board and ultimately to town meeting as to what that dollar amount is. It could go up to $2,500 or down to $500. We could set that. So there's a little bit of flexibility in the parameters of the program. But we had felt as a staff that if you set a dollar amount, you can kind of project out the total budget impact.
And then will the select board be sponsoring this article? So we don't have to do this by the end of the day today.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Oh, excellent.
That one that closed.
Okay. I thought it was today. Good thing I was. All right. Okay, other board members, any questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious, about the cap on the number of them. It feels like that would be tough. Like, it would be like first come, first serve. And so there would be like a small number of households that benefit and everyone else is sort of left out in the cold. Well, that
ties into also, is there an annual assessment, right? A reassessment of whether people are in compliance.
So through you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So the example that I put in the memo is the cap that Harwich uses.
Yeah.
So we would determine based on conversations with the assessor's office, whether, I mean, we could speak to them and they might say, we don't feel there needs to be a cap,
Mhm.
but that would be part of the conversation with them is like what they thought the cap should be, what would be appropriate, and it would be you do apply annually.
Thank you. Mary?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any way, so in order to recognize landlords, good landlords or compassionate landlords, the ones that have been doing it for a long time, is there any way to get the tax benefit retroactively?
No.
And but with a cap, because I realize how expensive that could be. I'm just thinking it's a way to acknowledge people that have been doing it for a very long time. Thanks.
Through Madam Chair, there wouldn't be a way to do that, unfortunately, but hopefully through this and through the rental preservation program, if and when we launch that, they'll be able to begin to benefit going forward.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, you don't need a vote on this, Jim.
We don't need I don't believe we need a vote, but I think what we're looking for would just be whether or not you're interested in us continuing to pursue this. And I'm gonna bring this, I'm meeting with the assessor's office on Friday. And then I'm going to bring this in front of the select board more fully fleshed out for their December 3rd meeting. So we'll meet, the trust will meet again before, the trust will meet again before then on the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being able to get your feedback at least by the 2nd on the things laid out in the memo will be very helpful in terms of what the trust's recommendations would be.
Okay, so we have a little, yes.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody that the town's budget is the town's budget, right?
Right.
So when I pay less tax, someone else pays more tax. So this isn't about making a tax go away. It's about shifting a tax burden from one property owner to all the other property owners
Who pay taxes,
who pay tax.
not the conservation entities.
Actually, okay, or nonprofits, or, yeah. So just to be clear, I'm wearing my select board hat, right? As a policy, that's the impact of this, right? If we prioritize giving a tax break to people who are renting year round,
Mhm.
which as an idea, I think has great value, but we also have to be very cognizant of the impact of that on other people, on other property owners. So just,
Yeah, that's,
it's not an opinion about one way or the other. It's just.
no, it's valuable to hear that, but it's also, my feeling is I'm fully in support of this, especially because it doesn't exclude inter-family situations.
Mhm.
But also I feel in a way, it's like almost like a pilot program. Like we don't know how many people are going to avail themselves of this.
Through you, Madam Chair. One thing I thought was really interesting is the town of Harwich that released it. I think they've had 4 people that's completed it so far. It just launched in July of this past year. So it'd be interesting that we hear so many stories, but how many people will go and fill out the application and go down
The paperwork.
and do the paperwork? So it could build up over time, so it might be kind of a pilot program. If we have a rental preservation program, it could be something that we have the rental preservation program while we're getting a lot of data on who are those year-round people, and then we implement this. So one could come before the other or at the same time. I think we've learned a lot of the last couple of years that having many tools out there, even if 5 people opt into this, that's 5 more rentals that we have at a low price compared to building new. So it could be viewed as a win-win.
Yes, Brooke.
Yeah, and juxtaposing that the value of 5 new rentals against the administrative burden of monitoring and re-qualifying and all of that, right? So there's staff time, you know, so it's always a big puzzle.
And if I think also we, in the housing department, we're talking that even if it were accepted at this year's annual town meeting, I don't believe it would go in effect until fiscal year 28. So we would have a lot of time to be pieces.
And more data from other communities by then as well.
And we can authorize, the town meeting can authorize it to be implemented, and then we can decide not to implement it. It's not, right. So we could evaluate it and decide it doesn't make sense, but having the authorization from town meeting now.
Yeah, it seems to me that the general feeling here is that this is worth proceeding and seeing where we go with it, without taking a formal vote on it. Okay.
And I think just one last thought, I think, you know, we, in all of our transfer fee advocacy, we talk about how we take full advantage of the resources available to us by the states. I think even just showing that we're doing the due diligence on this, even if we decide it's ultimately not for us, is
another good point. Okay, moving on, staff update, please.
Well, that's me. I will share my screen. All right, I'm gonna zoom in.
Well, that would be good.
I can't even see it on my
I have
screen.
it printed. Thank you.
All right, so we have some updates since we met last month and provided an update. So in terms of lease to locals, we're up to 80% of the funds have been expended up to this point. As you know, we put out a request for proposals for an administrator back in October. And last week, the review committee awarded that contract to PlaceMate. So the contract is going to be going before the select board for their November 19th meeting. So that's tomorrow night. For Habitat for Humanity, for the Weight Drive development, 70% of the grant funds have been expended so far. And Jerry and Jennifer, who were here earlier, presented at the October 14th Affordable Housing Trust meeting with an update on that project. So things moving along there. In terms of Tacoma Green, we're continuing to coordinate with all the parties to ensure that they are synchronized for simultaneous closing with the issuance of permits, which is important for our subsidized housing inventory lists.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, an update as of yesterday is we are aiming for the December 10th select board meeting. The final sign off to close on or around the 11th.
And then those units will count for next year? This year, that's what I thought, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So good transition to our subsidized housing inventory or SHI list update. And the projecting out to 10%. So we're still at 6.55%. And we have 3 so far this year, 3 building permits for affordable housing units have been pulled. But very excitingly, the select board approved and executed the regulatory agreement for new downtown 18 to 26 Sparks Avenue. So that's a critical step for getting those 32 units added to the SHI list. And upon the lease up of all the units at Meadowswood 1, which I believe we got confirmation has now happened. All 28 units will be on the size housing inventory list. So we really need an update from from when the packet was posted because some things happened yesterday. And once, as Christy just mentioned, once Tacoma Green pulls their building permits, there'll be additional units added. With all of that accounted for, the town will be at 8.01% of the 10%.
Yeah, I just want to point out two things. When I first came on to this group, I feel like we were at 2.63% or something.
1.86.
1.96. And that is since 2019,
Right around 2019 is when things started. to
which is when the
pick up.
town stepped up in a very significant way to fund this. And I think that's really remarkable. Now, just so people understand, once we're in safe harbor, it's not forever.
Right.
We have the next decennial census in 2030. It'll probably take till 2032 to have that certified and have the results. But once we hit that 10%, I mean, it could go down, the requirements going forward. Probably won't, but and so it's a constantly sort of moving goal. But we buy ourselves some years of certainty where we're in safe harbor from 40Bs, not unwanted elections. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So some exciting news, as you know, the town released the request for proposal for year-round deed restriction, the pilot program, which we have $2 million in funding for. And the application closed on Friday, November 14th, so this past Friday. And the review committee has been put together and is beginning to review proposals, and they will award contracts by December 15th is the deadline for that.
And are we able to share how many applicants there were, applications?
There were 6.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think it's a great number, and because there's clear interest, and that's a good amount of applications, especially given the time that it was open for. But also it feels manageable for the pilot program scope of it. So we're very excited about that. Moving on, as you know, we are working with students from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. They are researching adaptive reuse of secondary and tertiary spaces in the commercial downtown, spaces meaning floors, not ADUs. And so I meet with them weekly to sort of get updates and guide their work. They're here through the 8th. They're meeting today, actually. Part of the reason they're not here, they're interviewing Meg Trudell at Plus. So they're doing a lot of really interesting work and getting insight, and I'm excited to be able to share. We're all excited to be able to share what they ultimately find. The rental preservation program study RFP was awarded to PlaceMate. So Christy and I meet with them weekly to help guide their work, and they are going to be here in person at the Trust's meeting on December 2nd to give an update. And as you heard during announcements, they launched a survey on November 6th to get community feedback to guide the process and creation of the program. And as you know, that the survey closes in 2 days on Thursday, November 20th. There's a link, so please take the survey if you think you are eligible to be a part of the rental preservation program. And then, as always, we're continuing to work with the town's communications office to release monthly newsletters, to coordinate our social media outreach, and to ensure that we're doing all that we can to get our messaging out into the community so people know what's going on and how programs and initiatives that may apply and benefit them.
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you. Do board members have any questions?
I was gonna ask
Christy?
around the communications update, over the last probably 6 weeks, we've been having weekly ads. Current Daybreak, INM, just kind of what is the Affordable Housing Trust? And we just want this to be like a year-round campaign.
That's,
to get people involved.
I think it could be helpful to do something along the lines of, did you know that 417 units have been created that are perpetually deed restricted since 2019, something like that? Because if people, they're not seeing it, so they don't, we just need to do a better job. I'm not being critical, I'm being helpful. Sure. You know what it is. Right. Okay, thank you. Board comments. I have a board comment, which is, I noticed recently that something like 80% of us, our terms are up in 2026. And I wasn't sure how that happened because this is on the town's website. Because I thought they were supposed to be staggered terms, so I just would like to get this on an agenda item, so we're not dealing with it at the last minute in 2026.
So I could clarify, like the NPDC representative, select board and housing authority
Annual appointments.
are all annual,
Yeah.
so those
Yeah.
always have that 1 year
Yep,
ending, and then there's usually just one, at large.
at large. That's helpful to know. Let me ask this question, because I am an appointee for the housing authority myself. Is there a term limit on how many times one can be appointed? Not yet. Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not beating you yet.
Okay, other business, anything under other business? How is that different than public comment? I guess it is a little different, like if somebody thought of something during the meeting.
Well, next meetings.
Oh, yeah, all right, our next meeting is Tuesday, December 2nd, 12:30, again, hybrid here in the trailer and by Zoom, followed by our final meeting of the year, December 16th. Okay,
Shall I?
I'm going to entertain a motion from Brooke.
Okay. I move that we adjourn open session to move into executive session, not to return to open session for the purposes stated in the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. By roll call vote, Forrest,
Aye.
thank you, Shanta,
Aye.
and Mary,
Aye.
and Abby,
Aye.
Brooke, and I vote aye as well. Thank you, everybody.